Name is Alexa Hernandez. I'm born and raised in Laredo. I'm 21. I just got my bachelor's in communication from TAMU. And while going to school, that's when I got into ceramics and I was minoring in studio art. I ended up really falling in love with ceramic and continued making ceramics even after I graduated. And then I saw this opportunity of this residency here in Laredo. So I think I'm on my third month into Cultivarte's first ever residency program. How about you, Diego?
Well, I'm Diego Canales. I graduated from TAMU and got my BA in art in 2018. I also make work under an alias, Ozotso. You can find me on Instagram. And I'm currently a artist in residence at the Printing Museum here in Houston, Texas. I'm working on a zine called Terrestrial Black Hole Fan Club. And it should be coming out sometime this month.
I thought it would be kind of cool to make a mug that looked like a quilt using the colored clay. So that's where I got the idea of using textiles and fiber arts to be a source of inspiration for the designs that I create. So I'm just making functional wear cups, mugs. Yeah, that's what I'm working on for my residency.
What are you using, or what kind of clay are you using, and what are you using to color your clay?
I'm using it's called Laguna Frost, and it's a cone 6 porcelain.
And it's without color, it's like a white. It's a white clay.
And I mix in mason stains.
Mason stains.
Yeah.
The same mason stains that we would use to make colored glazes, right?
Yeah.
That they would use in the TAMU studio.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm. I had taken ceramics in Korea at Iwa Women's University, and it was something that I wasn't too much of a fan of at the time, but I got into intermediate ceramics, and it was awesome. I fell in love with it. I started off actually by making slip cast molds using plaster, and I was casting a lot of cups and stuff like that. But then I started getting better at making bowls at using the ceramic wheel. And we would have things like bowl-a-thons. I would get a lot of practice, and then I became a little bit more confident using the wheel. And I kept taking ceramics after that. And then I ended up working at the studio as a student worker, and I was there all the time. Yeah. It was nice because since I was there most of the time, I kind of got acquainted with a lot of the students that were there, a lot of my classmates, and seeing what they were working on. And that's something that I really like about shared studios, is that you're surrounded by other people's work. You're surrounded by people working on their things, and I don't know, it kept me working, and it kept me inspired to do something. So everyone was doing something different, and I really like that.
I mean, there's a debate with ceramics between arts and craft, and I just like ceramics because of how tactile it is and how physical it is. My entire family is creative, and I think that's kind of where I get it from. I've always been interested in houses and domestic spaces, so interior design, but I didn't know that that's what it was called at the time. So I would every time I would go to a bookstore, I would go to the magazine section, and I would flip through the fancy interior design magazines, or in middle school I even made an interior design blog, just as a way for me to catalog all of my favorite spaces. So that was something that I've always been interested in. I wanted to study interior design, but I wasn't, looking back, I wasn't ready to leave home, and I also wasn't in a position to leave home. And it's easy for me to explain this to you because in Mexican culture, family is such a really big thing. and my dad didn't want me to leave home. And then also my brother was gonna leave home to go study graphic design in San Marcos. So he was kind of like dealing with that fact. So I ended up staying here in Laredo, and I decided to study communications because like I secretly wanted to take like the design classes that major offered. And then also I wanted to take ceramics. So I studied communications and I minored in studio art. Um, but with ceramics, like I don't know, like I've never really felt the way I felt with ceramics with any other medium. Like I feel really like I don't know, like if I'm not doing it, I'm always thinking about it and I feel lost if I don't do it. Like I don't know what I would be doing or what I should like focus my attention towards. Um but yeah, I ceramics kind of gave me like it kind of set me on a path to where I can potentially be my own boss and do and work on like projects that I want to make and potentially hopefully like make an income out of it. So I think it just wasn't until like ceramics that I've kind of felt like this is something that I want to do.
Yeah, you describe what you do, and it's just like you have the title, but you just don't like you refuse to give it to yourself.
Cause like I make cups and I make mugs and I like doing that stuff.
Yeah.
Like I so that's the way that I see it. Like cups and mugs can be like a canvas for me to like paint whatever I wanna. I don't know, like illustrations or something, or like a simple design.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, like when I see other ceramicists work and they have like really like funky like weird designs, I like it because it's also functional. Like it's a piece of art, but that I can like use every morning.
Yeah. I don't know. I sometimes I make a lot of tea cups, but like some of them I'm like I'm not going to use this. Like I I'm putting it on a pedestal, you know, and like that's something that I never understood before, because it like even in art history it's always like, yeah, like ceramics it's a craft and it's kind of like a lesser art compared to like sculpture and painting.
Mm-hmm.
But once I started learning it, like and how complex it was, how much like science you could like incorporate into it,
Mm-hmm.
and all this chemistry behind it, I was like, why is this a lesser art when it's so much more complicated and so much more even scientific? Like I refuse to like leave it down there, you know. And I always like wanted to elevate ceramics
Yeah.
to like a higher pedestal.
Yeah. Like I do consider ceramics an art. Like however you want to think about it, but I would say like ceramics is up there in the arts.
Yeah, it should be. I don't see it any different as like painting, and like I do all kinds of work. I do painting, I do printing, I do zines, I do at some point I did sculpture, and I don't see ceramics any different. I was told, like I was like taught that it like that it's seen otherwise, but I see it in the same level as everything else, and like it's actually also my ceramics is also my favorite like medium to work with.
Mm-hmm.
And it's like it's the one that I can easily like improvise in. I'm the most comfortable in. I have the least access to. So like ironically, but I see so much. I see a lot more dimension in ceramics than I do, for example, with painting. Like, and you can say like, oh, painting is more elevated because of the concepts, but you can input and incorporate some very very interesting concepts to ceramics.
Like I would say like ceramics is important, and I agree that it has so many like dimensions, and really like ceramics is like the only medium that I've really dived into. So I don't really know a lot about like printmaking, like illustrations, painting. Like ceramics is all I know. The few of what I know about ceramics is like it's been around for so long. The resources and the materials that you use like come from the earth.
Mm-hmm.
So like I don't know, I guess like I don't know how to explain it, but like sometimes it can become unsustainable with how much like ceramics is getting like really popular. Like a lot of people are I guess like earthing like material from the earth. So that's like another component that we have to think about, like how sustainable it is for us to like gather this clay. So
Mm-hmm.
it's just like so many other things that we have to like take into account. Like it's not just about like making what we want to make, but like thinking about like the future of ceramics.
Yeah, because from what I remember, like I know that if you're using like a specific kind of like material, let's say to make your clay, and then you find out that like the like the quarry was exhausted and like you can't get that same material, and like there's always like you have to find a substitute.
Mm-hmm.
And from what I've heard, some people don't like that, or they end up hoarding, or it starts becoming this kind of like deal, which is pretty interesting. It's something that you make, and it's gonna like outla like it's gonna they're gonna find it buried like thousands and thousands of years later. Like it'll survive longer than your painting, and maybe longer than your like illustrations. You know, it's like something that's gonna be there for a very long time.
Mm-hmm.
And we see that like when we go to museums, we see like old ceramic, and it's still there. It's still good. It's still intact, and you can probably still drink out of it if you wanted to.
And it still has like a lot of the detail in it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Like people have been making some like really weird looking sculptural pieces with ceramics and a lot of like large scale pieces. Like I would say that because of this popularity, I think there's not going to be a debate in the future of whether ceramics is an art or a craft. Like I think it'll be considered an art.
And I think I don't know where it's gonna go, but I think ceramics is like, and as, along with any other art, it's gonna be made like relative to what's happening in the moment. And I made like recently, maybe like a few years ago, I made like a case for a Bluetooth speaker, where like you can put your Bluetooth speaker inside a ceramic thing. So maybe thousands of years ago, there were no ceramic Bluetooth speaker cases, but we have that now. And in the future, they're gonna make a ceramic something to
Yeah.
be compatible with something that we're gonna make in the future.
Ceramics is like really, it's really pricey. Like it's really expensive, and sometimes it's not very accessible to a lot of people just because of like the materials and like having a place to work and then firing your pieces. So I feel like making it more accessible to people and then having a space for people to promote their work.
Like at an individual level, it's how you package and how you present your ceramics.
Mm-hmm.
And like I know most of the time when people make ceramics, they have a concept, they have an idea, and they have like a more, I guess, a more romantic concept when they're making something. And when you present it like that, then you can really
Mm-hmm.
like yeah, like elevate it to that.
And Diego, you studied art, right? Like,
Yeah.
did
Mhm.
they ever teach you guys about like presentation?
Like presenting your work, maybe just like well, it was pretty much critiques, like and I don't they maybe they didn't teach us how to present our work when we were critiquing, but it's something that I always made an effort to like explain, like when I was doing something. Like these are the concepts that I was thinking about. This is what I was referencing. This is what I'm relating it to, and it's also, you can also see how some people present their sculptures, and
Uh-huh.
just throw the sculpture out and like put your ceramic piece in there, and it's the same thing.
Mm-hmm.
Because it's all, I feel like it's the same guy. Like we follow the same guidelines when we produce something, like no matter what it is, and that's why like I'm still conflicted in that, like why is it so different? Like
Yeah.
we follow the same procedures to produce something.
Yeah, like a lot goes into like making a product or like making a mug and like how it feels in the hand. So those are some of the things that like I do think about with like the stuff that I make. I am excited. I am excited to like exhibit ceramic pieces for the exhibition, especially like in Laredo. People can like clearly see like the designs and the details that's in the pieces that I'm making. I would like to do like an installation where you have other pieces into the mix that kind of spotlight, I don't know, like your ceramics that kind of like, how do you say it? Like, I don't know, like you have furniture in there and then you place like this cup on there. So it's kind of like showing you how that cup is being used.
At the printing museum, I had pitched a zine based on it's on a NASA math book for teachers, like for high school teachers, that explains like simple like black hole equations that like can be done using like high school algebra, upper level like algebra, like in high school. So, and I'm using these equations to make like art based on that. And when I pitched that to them, they said, oh, we have a risograph machine, and it's like a Xerox printer, but a riso machine, it works using like a soy ink, and it works also on burning masters. So it's not something that like, let's say you have like let's say you have an image, a photograph, like you can't print photographs on the riso. You have to divide like your colors in them, kind of like a screen, like kind of like screen printing, where you have to divide all your colors, right? And you're also limited to a few things. So not only do I have to worry about the concept of the zine, but I also have to worry about the limitations of the format, which is, I think the max size would be an 11 by 17 size paper. The other limitation would be the colors that are printed. It's just working around those limitations and also setting up your documents to print on a risograph. And you get some very, very exciting like results. So that's kind of what I'm working on right now, just designing, practicing a little bit more graphic design, incorporating a font that I actually got from a French graphic designer that I really liked the font that she created, and I'm incorporating that into my zine.
Did they give you like a demo on how to use the printer or?
Yeah, yeah. So we had a previous resident artist come from Austin, and he was able to show us how to use the Riso. Mm-hmm. So it was funny because he taught me and he taught the studio manager and also the museum manager how to use it, and that was pretty fun.
Mm-hmm. I was watching a video like a long time ago about like the risograph printers, and they were saying that like the reason why it's so unique is because of the colors and like the ink. And I don't know, I could be wrong, but like they were saying that like like with regular printers there's only like 4 colors, and then those colors you mix, but with this one it's like you have like all these colors.
Yeah. So regular printer, you have a cyan, magenta, yellow, and black. Mm-hmm. And by layering those colors, you can make other things like purple or like pinks, which magenta is already a pink, but you can make it like more purplish by adding the cyan and stuff like that. You can't print white. You can't print gold. You can't print fluorescent pinks. And in a reso, like all you have to do is switch the drum out to those colors, and you get a variety of colors to print out of. But it's just switching your formats. So like a inkjet printer is pretty reliable when it comes to like that color palette of CMYK. But in a reso, you can get very, very creative. Yeah, like you could also like mix colors by layering them as well. Like if you want to get green, I think in the printing museum they got a blue. So if you want to make green, you print like your yellow, then your blue. And I actually have a pretty cool book. Let me go fetch that. You mess with gradients on your grayscale image, and let's say you print colors, you can create like these kind of things. Like here, there's green, purple, and yellow being printed over. So see, like in a CMYK printer, you don't have a purple color. Like you have to make that using your cyan and magenta, right?
So they're all layers.
Yeah, these are all layered on each other. So this is blue, green, and orange. So right now, I'm near the end of my residency. So at this point, it's just printing out my designs and then assembling zines, which is going to be the last part of my residency. My goal is to finish like as soon as possible, and then maybe have the resources around to make a few set of prints of something else.
So my residency started in April, and it's for 3 months, and June is my last month. Yeah, I'm working with like mason stains, and I'm adding that into the clay to make these like pigmented colored clays. And then I'm also using the technique of like neurochromy. So that's like a lot of hand building involved. Like I had to think about like the shapes and the designs that I want to make, so that I can kind of work backwards and figure out the steps for me to get to that design. So like there's like a lot of stacking and like layering, and then slicing them and then putting them together. So a lot of hand building. So that was something that was really new for me, because I've only dabbled with hand building when I was taking ceramics 1, and then once we got into the wheel, I never went back to hand building. So I've kind of been like relearning how to like make a slab. I mean, it's not hard like making a slab, but like with this clay, it's a porcelain, so it's very delicate and it dries really fast, and it's really prone to cracking, so I have to work really fast. So there's that. And for like the past 2 months, I've just been kind of like learning how to work with the clay, and a lot of trial and error. Yeah, like how to do neurochromy, and looking videos on YouTube and articles online on like how to mix clay. But now coming into this month, I've noticed myself becoming more like confident and a lot more comfortable with this technique. Like I've noticed myself not letting the clay boss me around. Like I'm able to get it to do what I want it to do. So that's been very comforting for me. I mean, with that, like becoming more confident with it has helped me enjoy the process a lot more, because then I can just like go to the studio, get in the groove of making what I'm making, and then just be done with the day, and then just like make something else. I think I would say that I would stay with this technique, or at least incorporate it into like my other like wheel thrown work. Like have wheel thrown pieces and then have like neurochromy pieces, or maybe like dive even deeper into like neurochromy and make really like lavish, like really complicated like designs, and large scale also, or like even experimenting with like color mixing, like within the colors, like mixing the mason stains to make other colors. But yeah, I think for sure like I am gonna like stick with this technique, because like previously I've been working with I've only been like working with like really simple shapes and like silhouettes, and only using like a clear or like a white glaze and like no color. So I think having color in my pieces is like really exciting and fun for me. So I think that's something that I am gonna continue with.
I've been painting a little bit more on my free time. So I think after this residency, I might just like sit down. I have like an abundance of material and like alcohol-based inks that I have laying around, and I want to start using these to like make some paintings. I think later in the future I might get into hand building. I was referred by a friend on where I could, let's say if I were to do like some earthenware where I can get that fired. I was able to find out where I can do that here in Houston. So I would also consider doing some ceramic work as well in the future. I see myself staying here like a few more years, and then maybe move around. My goal is also to move around, maybe across Texas or even outside of the state.
I think also like another one for me is like I really want to start taking ceramics like to the public and start doing like little workshops. And with this medium, I kind of figured out that it's a very approachable way, really fun way for like kids. I think I would really like to do like a little Narikomi workshop for kids, just because I feel like with this medium, with this technique, it's very like forgiving, and like whatever you make, whether it looks like really weird or funky, like it still looks really cool like once it's like glazed and fired. So I feel like whatever like the kids make is gonna end up looking really cool. I think it'll just be interesting to see like what they make. Well, I think like especially for someone like me who is still quite young and is only like in the beginning into like my career, but I will say that like for sure this residency is a really good opportunity for me, because I feel like this would lead to even more opportunities for me in the future. So like whatever work I create for this residency, I can use that to make a little portfolio and submit that to like another residency or like another internship or apprenticeship to like work on another body of work that I want to create. So yeah, I just feel like also like exposure, especially like in Laredo, that has really helped a lot.
And also for me, I think this residency really served as like a view of what I can do outside of home. You know, like I was making zines using my printer at home, everything very DIY. Not saying that it's not DIY at the printing museum, but it's like I see it as like a level above what I'm doing, you know, with some equipment that is more reliable to do these kinds of things, to even mass produce. I usually do, when I do zines here at home, it's already like a lot of work, and I limit it to like maybe 30 copies, but I'm planning on like even doubling that. I'm trying, like my goal was to make like 100. Usually you're gonna have mistakes and misprints, but from what I'm seeing right now, like I'm gonna end up with something like around 80, which is like 50 more than I would do at home, and in a larger format too. So it's awesome to see like the next level of what I was doing here at home and to be able to produce that.
Just because lately I've been seeing a lot of like sculpture pieces by other artists, and I feel like anything you make out of ceramic just looks so cool. I think that's something that I want to explore more of, like more sculptural pieces and like really weird looking pieces, and then having like functional pieces as a way to support the really weird and sculptural pieces that I want to make. Yeah.
I moved here also. I was seeking like the opportunity to maybe have Houston to help me show my work outside of Texas at some point. You know, like my goal 5 years from now is like seeing my work outside of Texas, showing in galleries outside of Texas. like I'm still right now, like the COVID times are ending. Like I need to start looking for places to show here in Houston. That's my first step, and kind of getting traction on that. Maybe networking a lot more, meeting people, hopefully that come visit from other places, being able to like catapult my artwork out of Texas and show nationally. Early 2020, I saw Laredo's like striving, and I saw downtown striving, and I saw like there was a lot of even opportunity for me to show work, have exhibitions. I was able to do a lot of that from after I had graduated to during the pandemic. I had like a lot of opportunities to show my work in Laredo, which I think it would have been a little bit harder before. I could be wrong, but I saw a lot of venues for that. I really think that it'll take maybe like a year to recover, but I think it's on its way to becoming a very interesting city, culturally and like artistically. So it's something that I'm always gonna be keeping an eye out for, because I still at some point want to show work in Laredo again, and everything that I do here, like I would want to show it over there. So I'm always keeping an eye out for that.
Yeah, like with this residency, I mean, maybe before I felt like that Laredo was kind of limiting, but I feel like with this residency, like I don't feel like that anymore, just because like a lot of people have reached out, like even like Shorts Gallery,
Mhm.
like I've already kind of like dipped my toe into like I don't know, like the art scene in Laredo, and have already made like contacts
Mm-hmm.
within Laredo. So I definitely like don't feel like that anymore.
Yeah, I mean, Cultivarte is a good platform.
Yeah.
It's a really good platform to like meet a lot of people, and a lot of people are keeping an eye out. I know that for sure.
Mm-hmm.
Working from home is like it's difficult, because it's just like you have a lot of whether it be entertainment, whether it be dirty dishes, whether it be chores and things like that. Like you have to work around that. But I think as soon as I get inspired to do something, I just like get in on it. But I always try to like set a few times of a day to like do create something. Especially like if I have like scheduled times to print, I do try to like design something in advance so I can go and print something. I don't know. Sometimes I feel like, hey, you know what? I want to do something else. I'll take advantage of like the drive and paint something. Something that I did while during work was that I was using my breaks and my lunch periods to draw anything, and it's something that I was practicing a lot. Where I was like, oh, if I'm at work, I might as well create something, and whether it be a sketch, a doodle, anything. So I was able to like bring home like a lot of drawings from work. I mean, they're just simple drawings, but I was able to scan them, put them on my computer, assemble them, and I'm actually gonna make a zine out of that. So it just depends, like whatever pockets of time that I find that I'm able to do something, like, and if I have the drive to do it, I'll do it. And then I just start accumulating work like that. Like I know, like if I follow it, I end up with like a generous amount of work for me to work with, to even share like on social media, which is something that I'm concerned about. But I know that like if you start letting go of that discipline, like you'll start seeing the like a decline in work. Not artistically, like your skill isn't gonna it's still gonna be the same, but the amount of work you produce is gonna be different. So I know discipline is important.
Like there are moments where I am like super disciplined and on top of like my schedule, and then there's other times where I just feel like I don't feel like doing anything, and I tend to procrastinate. But like especially more like on the mundane stuff, like mixing clay or like cleaning the studio. I think the biggest thing for me was like waking up really late and not be able to have enough time to be in the studio. So with this residency, I've been disciplined to like treat it as like an 8 to 5 job. Trying to like wake up at 6. I usually wake up like at 7 or 8. And go into the studio in the morning and in the afternoon. But yeah, that was like a biggest challenge for me, was just like, I don't know, because I sleep really late and I wake up late. So I'm trying to like break that habit, put in more time into the studio. And then also what has really helped me a lot was, again, like making like really long list of like all my ideas, whatever I want to make, because then I don't waste studio time on like deciding what I'm gonna make, because I already have it written down and like how I'm gonna go about making it. So that has really helped me not waste studio time. And usually like the day before I'll decide on what I'm gonna make, especially because like with colored clay, like I have all these colors and I have to narrow it down to like a few colors on what I'm gonna work with. So I'll get that down and then decide on a shape that I want to make the day before, and then the next day I'll make the shapes, and then the following day I'll build up upon that and make like the pieces out of those shapes, and then work on a different design. I have like all these like patterns in mind that I want to make. So I'm like, okay, I really feel like doing this type of pattern, so I'll choose my colors and I'll make the shapes, and then I'll make like the pieces out of those shapes. After that, I'll feel like making another type of design with different colors, and then I'll make pieces out of that. So it's just kind of like intuition on like what I feel like doing, but also I don't know, like I have it written down, but I'm also like flexible, like pick and choose on like what I'm gonna make. So I know there's moments where you just really don't feel like making anything, and you really force yourself to put in the studio time. How do you put yourself into that mindset and like headspace to get yourself really excited and like motivated to start on like to work on what you're working on?
I think usually it takes like I don't know, sometimes I get pretty detached from the project to the point where like I'm just like, oh, I'm gonna put it away for a bit, and because I feel creative to produce something else, you know. And it doesn't take something like even speaking to like our studio manager, like just something that like links me to the work again is like a huge motivation. Even just saying like, oh, like the new results here, oh hell, like that's awesome, like there you go. And like I could shift back because I'm a super distracted person, and it tends to happen a lot where like I feel creative, but I'm like, I don't want to use, like I want to use my creativity to do something new, and like I'm always like creating something completely out of my routine, which I kind of enjoy, but I have to like put a pause on it and continue it like afterwards. Like recently I've been painting, and I'm like, oh, I need to paint because I can't focus on my project, right? So I paint. And then once I kind of get bored of that, I'm like, okay. And then I kind of like shifting idea. Like as I'm painting, like it starts to feel like a bit like redundant, and that I'm already thinking about going back to my residency project, you know, like what am I going to do with it? How am I going to do this and stuff like that. So then I just shift back. So I'm like shifting back and forth. It tends to happen a lot, but I'm okay with it as long as it doesn't get out of hand.
Yeah, like I've noticed myself getting really bored easily making a whole bunch of like cups of the same design. So now I've just been focusing on like making unique pieces. So like only one cup will have a design and then the other one will have like a different one. So
Yeah.
there's a lot of like singles, like uniqueness.
Yeah.
Like I don't know, like the same thing with me. I have an idea, like I'm working on something and I have an idea to work on something else. So I'll stop what I'm doing and then work on that. and then I get really frustrated, and I'm like, oh man, I should have not done this. So then I'll go back and work on what I was previously working on, and I'm like, you know what, maybe I should go back on it. But yeah.
It's like I feel like it's so easy to be creative. Like even when you don't feel like doing anything, like you're thinking of like a full exhibition of something that you just came up with, but it's execution, and it's like making things with with the parameters of like deadlines and time and like your limitations of space and like at some point even transportation. Like it's just like you think about all these things, and so it's kind of like, oh, like you have to execute under those conditions. Like I'd rather just be creative, you know. But that's where the discipline comes in, you know. Like it's super important to have discipline to like to balance like your creativity with execution and production. I'm glad we were able to do this. Alexa, take care.
You too.
And we'll see you around.